Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the Opportunity Zone. We are going to be going through a lot today. I see Ralph zooming as always. Good to see you, sir. Be careful out there. I see Sue hanging out with us. See a lot of new people on here as well. We've got some stuff to cover today, and I'm going to be joined by Chris Lavin. Manoj, good to see you. Haven't seen you for a little bit. Chris, always good to hang out with you today. I know Nate is taking a much needed, very short vacation with his dad. So it'll be Chris and I hanging out with you today, going through some of the news that is out there, as well as our new opportunity for you. If you guys are looking for a phenomenal deal, we've got a great deal. We're going to get to that today as well. All right, so what are we going to be talking about? Rates, as you may have noticed, have been going up. We're going to cover the rates. We're going to be talking about New York City Bank having some problems, over 900% rise in non-payment of their commercial assets, causing some problems for them. We're going to talk about Cardone and Trump. If you like the political sector, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're also going to be talking about one of the richest cities in the country facing bankruptcy and what's going to happen with that. There's some speculation there going on. Chris, how are you doing? I'm going to bring you up here. You get to co-host with me. Let's get Chris up here. Here we go. Chris, make sure that you can unmute. You should have a
All
blue button
right, there we
somewhere.
go. How you doing, Steve?
Nobody mutes Chris. How are you
How's
doing
everybody?
today, Chris?
Very well, thank you for asking. How about yourself?
Doing awesome. Well, we are going to be jumping into the news. We do like to start everything off with a quick word of prayer, whether you're Christian or not. I hope you don't mind that we take a moment to bless all of you. There's a lot of things going on in the world, a lot of stress, a lot of people out there with some uncertainty, and we just want to take a moment to set things off on the right foot. So I'll just take a moment. Dear God, please be with us today as we go through the news. God, please be with everybody who is listening. Help them to find safety and security in your words. God, please give Chris and I the words to say and help everybody here feel blessed and feel a sense of peace as we move through things today. In your name we pray. Amen. All right. So, Chris, we're going to start off. We have a new opportunity. You are one of the sponsors of this. If you want, I can pull up the OM and we can go through what this stuff's going to look like. So this is the first time that we are showing this to most people here. If you guys would like more information, Sue is going to be putting the link in the chat. You can jump on a call with myself or Sue or any of the advisors out there. We've got Doug, I believe, is on here as well. Chris, I'm going to share my screen and I'll just kind of let you give us the overview of what we're looking at.
Sounds like a winner. So Morgan Terrace Apartments in Del City, Oklahoma. This is a great deal. Del City is definitely a market we want to be in. Population growth is good. It's got Tinker Air Force Base is right down the road. This is one of those what we like to call forever deals or infinite deals. And the reason we call it that is because we're getting this at such a fantastic price, and it's been like a year and a half, I think, going on to negotiate this deal out. We're getting it at such a fantastic price that the property is managed in such a way that we'll be able to go in there, bring the value of the property up very, very quickly by getting it, infusing a few dollars, do some capital improvement on the property, bringing it up to current market, and then we're going to refinance this property and get everybody. We're projecting getting about 90% of everybody's money back to them in the first 2 years. So what does that mean? It means you get 90% of your capital back, but you get to maintain your position in the property, right? So you continue to get the returns on this thing forever and ever until we decide to sell. And if things go well, we'll probably never decide to sell this thing. But you get to hold on to the property, maintain your position, even though you have capital back. And let's not forget that this year we still have 60% bonus depreciation for tax savings. So this one is in a good position. Don't know which side the election is going to go. So at a minimum, right, we want to get involved in this while we can still at least get the 60% bonus depreciation. Get the tax benefits so that we're saving some of our hard-earned dollars rather than giving it to good old Uncle Sam. It's not a political statement. I just know that I can do more good with my tax dollars by putting food in kids' mouths than the government ever would. That's just my opinion and my experience. So again, this is a heck of a deal. This is one of those Grand Slam home runs, right up there with the Memphis deal we were just fortunate with. By the way, that Memphis deal closed in like 8 days. We rated, it was so on fire. So right there in the same place with this deal. So if you're interested, I'm sure, I'm sure, I'm sure it's gonna go quick. So there you go, Sue, put the link up. Make sure you book a call because this is gonna go.
Yeah, this one is going to move really fast. So, Chris, you touched on a couple highlights. The first one is this is a 24-month. We're planning on having most of the investment capital back to our investors, keeping them in the deal and continuing to make cash flow off of this. What sets this deal up for that kind of financial benefit? This isn't something that you see all the time.
No, it really isn't. So there's a couple things going on, and I don't mean to knock anybody or disparage anybody, but this property has been really poorly managed. It appears as though that the people that own it just don't even want to be, try to do anything with the property. They just want to collect their rents and just be happy. Not really interested in any effort. Keep it easy, keep rents below market. Keep the thing filled and keep the checks coming in. So we'll go in there, we'll properly manage it and get the rents up to where they need to be. Right now, they're renting at about 75% of the market value. So we'll get it up to about 95, 98% of the market value. And immediately that forces the appreciation. Because the thing about multifamily as compared to single family is a multifamily home's value is based on the net operating income. And as long as we don't increase the expenses, which we shouldn't, we'll increase the rents, therefore increasing our net profits, therefore increasing the value of the property.
Yeah, this is,
And we can
I mean,
refinance and get everybody's money back out of it because it's worth so much more.
right. That's the thing that here, because it is so far under market rent and there's so much room in it, it's been mismanaged. They came to us looking for an easy out. We've been working with them for, you said, about a year and a half
Right.
to get this deal done. The last raise that we did on a property like this that had the infinite return piece plugged into it, we raised in 8 days. We were guessing this one will go very quickly as well. So if you'd like more information, it is for accredited investors only. Investments are going to start at $100,000 and go up from there. When I put it up, we did have a slide up there. So for $100,000, it is a 6% preferred return. Let me see if I can just pull this up really quick and we'll run through it. It is a
6% 1 to 500,000. At 500,000 to a million, it's 8%. Anything above a million is 10%. And so that's just part of the deal. The other part is the first tier that we discussed, the 6%. It's a 70-30 equity split when we exit. That means that the LPs get 70%, the GPs get 30. At the second tier, which is the $500,000 level, it's 75-25. And then at that $1 million level, it's 80-20. So you can see how as you increase your investment, you get increased rewards. Now we're allowing people to come in as a group. So if you and 4 of your best friends can come together, come up with $500,000, we'll honor that commitment as though it was one investor.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where this really gets powerful because you get the extra 2% in the pref, plus you get the back end split, which is really where you're going to start to turn this on as this will continue to pay out over and over and over. Pretty sweet deal. That's what we love doing here. If you're new to our world, my name's Steve Werner. I'm joined by Chris Lavin. He is one of our principals. Nate Armstrong is the owner, CEO, and founder. He's not joining us today, but our whole company is based on the Matthew 25 principle of being great stewards of the things God has given us, the parable of the talents. And that's why we love to bring you deals like these. These are the deals that can set you up for generational wealth. They show being a great steward of what God has given you and giving you great returns. All right, we are going to transition into the news. So I'm going to start off with just rates in general. Um, so you guys might have noticed that rates have been going up. I've got a couple things to share with you guys here on this one. Um, so rates are probably going to hit 7% again. If I go over here, let me see if I can find this is what Google has it at today. You can see that right now we are at the highest point that we have been since August. Rates have definitely been creeping back up. See, where did there we go. So rates keep climbing up. Chris, what do you think? Are we going to see rates drop by the end of the year? They've been saying they might come back out, they might move things down. What do you think?
You know, so here's the crazy thing. So we know that rates dropped by half a point by the Fed, right? And yet the mortgage rates continue to creep up. Well, there's a lot of reasons for that, and I'm not going to get into microdynamics and microeconomics of that. But so what if the Feds drop the rates another half a point? What's going to happen to mortgage rates after that, right? So I believe what's happening is that there's a lot of fear in the market, and banks are afraid of loans going bad because of a recession, and they're trying to pad the mortgage rates at this point so that they have that greater buffer as we move forward through these difficult economic times. So just because the Feds, I'm almost convinced we're going to get another half point drop. I'm not sure that the end mortgage rates to the consumer are going to go anywhere.
Well, I think you're pointing to what I agree with. I think the banks are scared. I mean, we saw some bank failures last year. We've seen a lot of them start to have problems, mostly with commercial loans, but they're still looking for a safety net, right? That actually brings us to our next story. Um, so the real deal is going to end up blocking me, which is always annoying. But New York City Bank has had their multifamily loans and commercial loans their default rates go up over 990%. I went and found another news article to back this one up. So they pushed back their profitability forecast by over 18 months this week. The reason that they did that is because their commercial loans are starting to go into default. This is in New York City mostly, but what does this mean? We're seeing this kind of across the country. We're seeing this with a lot of different banks. I can tell you, I have bank accounts at 6 different banks. All of them in the last couple months have come out. Free checking has turned into paid checking. Credit limits are starting to be adjusted. Chris, what do you think about this? You from running a business, Chris, for those of you who don't know, CEO of a couple different businesses. You see this from a much more macro scale. What have you seen in the banking industry?
Well, you nailed it. Fortunately for me, I'm at a level that I can negotiate or deal with the banks at the level that I want. But even with me, they're coming up with these new fees and all of that. What I did recently run into is we use our American Express for about everything and pay it off monthly. And for the first time in 10 years, they did a responsible lending audit on me, which I was a little dumbfounded about. But yeah, they're definitely tightening their belts and increasing their fees. And they're trying to find profits in places to make up for what they perceive as the expected losses of defaulting loans.
So that's, I mean, between the rates, which we started with, and the defaulting loans, what's this mean for investors? What should investors be looking at? Is it just going to be harder to get a loan? Is it going to be something, I mean, here at Home Invest, we love seller financing stuff. We found quite a few multifamilies that have seller financing in them. What are ways that investors can use this to their advantage, or should they just be sitting on the sidelines right now?
Well, okay, so there's two parts of me, and this question gets me very excited because, um, y- you know, eh, when people get scared, you should get greedy, right? And that's where we're at right now, right? It's a famous quote: "When people are scared, you should get greedy." And when these banks start foreclosing on these properties, they've got to get rid of them. So fortunately for you as the investor, if you get involved with syndication deals like we're doing, because of our reputation and because of our contacts, we're able to get financing in places that are not customary. Outside of the scope of, the normal Fannie and Freddie type loans, we have other people that we go to for money. Why is that important? Is because we have two things that we can do. Because we have private financing in some of these deals, like the deal we're doing in Oklahoma City, we can close like that. Like 2 weeks, we can, boom, done. And because we have the ability to pivot that way, we can take advantages of these banks wanting to liquidate these properties. So they're going to be selling them at a discount. I don't know if the general public is aware of that. If a bank has $1 million mortgage that they foreclose on, once they foreclose on that property, they then have to keep $2 million liquid in capital to keep them to prove their solvency to the FDIC. So every time they foreclose on a loan, they've got to come up with cash reserves somewhere. If you go on and read the details of that New York Community Bank, they just infused $250 million into their liquidity state. And they have to maintain that. That means they got money sitting there they can't make money on, and banks make money on money. So they're going to get these properties, and we're going to come in and be able to swoop in and take them in at a discount. Now, because we have the established relationships and we have the proven track record, we're not going to have the same struggles as the general public does in getting a loan. We've got strong relationships with banks and lenders, and we have long-term history proving that we succeed through all of these downturn markets, and we know what we're doing. So as an investor, if not us, grab onto somebody like us, although I like to think there's nobody quite like us, but grab onto somebody that has the experience in the market, works with biblical and Christian principles, and will guard your money and help you double and triple your money in the future.
That is our whole mission here. And like Chris said, if you choose not to invest with us, we totally understand, but make sure that you are finding somebody who follows the same principles. Make sure somebody is getting a good loan rate and has their financing lined up. There are a lot of people out there who did loans using, we'll call them exotic kind of crazy financing. There are a couple people out there that they've done this over the last couple of years because they're trying to eke out every little last percentage point that they can. And then what ends up happening? We just ended up buying a property at like a $1.5 million loss because of somebody who tried to do that. When they get fancy,
they had $1.5 million loss.
Right. They ended up having the loss. We picked it up at a huge discount because they tried to use exotic financing. It ended up not working out for them, and then they had to sell the building to us, and we were able to scoop in and get a great deal. That's why we were able to close it in 8 days. All right, that kind of brings us to the next piece of the news. So love him or hate him, we got two people that are kind of Barnum and Bailey-esque in the news. We got Trump and we got Cardone both talking on Fox News. I thought this one was interesting. I tend to not be super political. I do like Grant Cardone. I think he has some interesting things to say. So he was on, and I watched the clip. I won't play it for you guys, but he was on, and he was talking about, one, why he supports Trump, and two, what he thinks Trump is going to do when it comes to mortgages. Specifically, he's saying, one, the Jobs Act, he's going to re-sign the Jobs Act so that becomes permanent. Chris, what are your thoughts on that? I know you have a couple thoughts on the Jobs Act.
Hip, hip, hooray. So if Trump does come in and extends the Job Act, that's huge benefits for us as investors. And that would be his goal, to stimulate the economy through that means, right? Drive the rates down, get the rates down, and give tax breaks back to people who are actually actively investing in the economy. So that's why I was cautioning people that if Trump wins, it's great, right? So jump in now, jump in on this deal before the year ends, because we don't know what happens on the other side of the election. Kamala is exactly the opposite. She's looking to do exact opposite things to people who are passively investing. So at least at a minimum, you would get the 60%. If things change, right, post-election, they'll likely make it retroactive, and then we'll get those tax benefits that Trump could give us as he did in the original Tax and Jobs Act. So yeah, jump on board.
Well, I mean, if if you don't understand what we're talking about right here with the Jobs Act, so you can take accelerated depreciation, and right now, like at the end of the year, if Trump does not get reelected, we're going to see those stair step down, and you're going to be able to take less and less against your taxes. Chances
Correct.
are, if you are a accredited investor and you've been investing using the tax benefits, you know about this. The other piece that Cardone talked about was how Trump can put some pressure on the Fed to bring rates down. Um, I don't know. I don't know what I think about this. I'm mixed, right? I do think that they should lower rates. I think that's what's going to get houses selling here in America. I don't know about the president having the power to actually force the Fed to do anything. He can strongly advise. Chris, you got thoughts on this?
You know, that's one thing that the American public in general doesn't realize is the Fed Reserve is a private organization. It's not a branch of the government. So while Trump can, stand over them with a gavel and wanting to hit them in the head, at the end of the day, they have their own mind. But he can also, make their lives difficult in other ways to coerce them to drop rates. And historically, they always respond too late. So hopefully we see this trend of continuing to drop rates. Trump gets in and says, hey, look at the economy starting to come back again. Let's get this thing moving. And they'll move to support him in those acts. But the reality is it's a private organization and not a government organization, and they can do what they want. But Trump can be pretty convincing, pretty convincing. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, I love him or hate him. Trump is a business guy, and he
Yep.
is good at convincing people to do things.
Yes.
I mean, if you look back at his history, all the way back from Art of the Deal through
Right.
now, like 1988 through now, he's very, very good at convincing people and getting things through. I mean, that's what he did a lot during his last presidency. The other piece on here that I thought you kind of talked about Kamala a little bit here. Um, Cardone's take on this was interesting to me. He said, it's cool that she wants to make 3 million new homes, but the reality is that we have 2 million homes for sale right now and nobody's buying because rates are too high. So if we just build another 3 million homes, are people going to be able to buy? Are people going to buy them just because the rate? And I guess my thinking, like if she gives you a $25,000 down payment credit, that might entice me to buy. But if my payment is still outside of what I can afford, we've seen a couple times in the news now where 80% of people who bought in the last year wish that they hadn't because the payment is too high and it's stressing them out financially. So you give me a $25,000 down payment for a $500,000 house or a $700,000 house that I'm going to end up paying 6, 7, 8 grand a month for that I can't afford. I don't know that people are going to buy, or is it just going to make the problem worse? This is actually, I would love to hear Nate's take on this because Nate sees both sides. I think I would tend to lean towards Trump on this. Like, I think we're going to have to see rates come down. But if you have more houses and you end up with more supply, does it eventually lead to more sales? Chris?
Well, the scary thing is that at some point then the market just bottoms out, right? And then we back to 2008. So I personally believe that forcing the building of 3 million new homes without the market being dry is a bad mistake. But that's why I go back to I think I do a better job with my money than the government does.
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly the government's job. This is my own belief. The government's job is not to regulate everything and is not to be involved in everything. It's definitely not to manage all of our money. It is to provide basic civil services. I'm more of a libertarian than anything. Like, I believe that pretty much everything should be legal and the government should be as small as possible. It's interesting. I mean, we're going to see it play out on a world stage over the next couple of years. Our job here is to give you as much information as we can and to make you guys as safe as possible, showing you what is happening. All right.
But
So the last article. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I just want to express this one more time. This news excites me. I know that sounds absolutely insane because all of these things crumbling around us, but us being in such a great position to act, right? So if the mortgage rates start going up, people can't afford houses. Guess what? They have to rent. Guess what we do? We're in the multifamily rental space. So all of this news really excites me because if we make wise decisions and work with the biblical principles that are set down before us, we will succeed and will benefit everybody around us.
Well, I
So,
mean, if you look at when the fortunes were made 2007 to 2011, it was the people that went out and bought.
oh,
I know one couple that they were able to get into one property. It was a 30, I think 33, 35 unit in Vegas. I actually got to see them last week. I was out in Vegas for an event that I was speaking at, and I got to visit them. And that one property that they bought has made them multimillionaires
yeah.
because the property now has tripled in value. But more importantly, it's for them, it's the cash flow from that property. There's so much opportunity, and I don't wish death and destruction. I don't wish financial hardship on anybody. I don't wish any of that stuff. The truth is, though, that markets go up and go down, and they have for all of time. They will continue to for all of time. The question that you need to ask yourself is not how do we stop the markets from going up and down, but how do we A, protect ourselves, and B, use it to our advantage. That's
100%.
that's the that's how you use this to create generational wealth. And to be honest, we inside of Home Invest, we have conversations around where do we want to price our rents at. We keep our rents below what the average is because we like to see 90-95% occupancy. You can see, though, everything that we've bought, if you guys have been a long time listener of the show, everything that we bought this year has been 25, 30, 35% under market rent when we buy it, which means there's plenty of room to raise the rent, still stay a little bit below, treat people really, really well. We are installing pastors on campuses. We're adding a lot of amenities to the buildings that we buy because we want to build community. Not only does that make us feel good and we feel like that is what God would want us to do, it also leads to lower turnover and higher cash flows for us and our investors. It's a win-win-win all the way around. The tenants win and we win and our investors win. All right. This next piece is rather interesting. I was having a discussion last week. I again try to be unpolitical. But I was having a little bit of a political discussion, and the person actually said to me, well, look at how great California is doing. And I think California is more of a case study of what happens when Democrats run wild. So hang on one second, get the screen to share. So this is what happens when a city of billionaires go broke. So this is the Portola Valley, population 4,300. So it's pretty small. The richest town in America. So founder of LinkedIn and Phil Knight both live up there. But what's happening is they have outspent the money that they are making through taxes because there are so many things that the city is spending money on. They also are being forced to provide ultra low income housing to offset the average income in the city. This is what California has mandated. Chris, you're shaking your head. I know you've got a lot of thoughts about this one. So the things that are happening, the people who live there say, well, I don't really want that. I don't want those as that here. That's why I chose to buy here. The average cost of a house is 5.3 million, which is pretty crazy. But now, or 5.82, right here we go. Last year, the price in the valley there went up by over 25% year over year. But now people are starting to list their homes and move. They've seen a gross increase in listings. It's just an interesting case study. Chris, what am I not seeing here? You're shaking your head. You look like you've got.
Okay, so it just doesn't make sense. Like the politics and everything that's going on here and the emotion the financial negligence by these people is just unbelievable to me. I mean, first of all, the poor, terrible contract negotiations. They had a $2.1 million contract with the police force. Actually ended up spending 6.4, 6.5 million on that contract. All kinds of things like that are going on. So the ultra wealthy want to be around the ultra wealthy for purposes of being around the people that they're like to. So now they're being forced to bring in these ultra low pricing ultra low cost housing, there's going to be no tax benefits to there's going to be no tax income from them, and what they're concerned about is losing their government funding. So again, government's involved in all of this stuff. It now all of the people with all of the money. What's his name's home was listed originally for 100 million. He sold it for 35. It was listed for 100 million in 2018. Went for 35 million. So as the robustness of this city's economy is diving, all these people pull it out of fear of not being able to get anything out of their properties. So this is like the insanity that's going on here. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm on the there it is. It's the guy from Sun Microsystems. Sold it for 35 million. It was originally listed for 100 million in 2018. Is that nuts? So because of the uncertainty of the local government, people are pulling out. And so if there's a mass exodus, you're going to, of course, be able to get this property pennies on the dollar. But I don't think it's ever going to get back to the stature it was because of the lost confidence in the responsibility of the government spending.
Yeah.
But hey, I don't have an opinion on this.
I mean, I do have to say, like, I'll play devil's advocate a little bit here. I mean, what about the people who say, well, there should be equality, like we don't want to see the gap between the haves and the have-nots grow, so they should be forced to live in the same area. What's your take on that? Because that was the discussion that I ended up having around this. I had this discussion last night. I was doing research for today, and we ended up playing both sides of this.
Well, here's the reality. Everybody, this is going to sound like a terrible comment, but I'm going to say it anyway. This all is great on paper, right? And everybody wants this, but the people that the ultra wealthy that we're talking about here, they're doing it from up on a hill, right? And they want to stay up on that hill, and it's good for everybody else, but they don't really want it in their neighborhood. I mean, and I know that sounds terrible, but it's also a fact of life and a fact of human nature. Yeah, the low income people can go over there because the low income people are the ones that commit the crimes, that break the laws, that are involved with the drugs, and then we end up with all that kind of stuff coming in. So they want it at arm's length. So the reality is not palatable to them. The reality is they don't want this in their neighborhoods. And again, they've lost confidence in the government, in the local government, and the reality is with the amount of finances in that community, they shouldn't need government subsidization. They really shouldn't. And so I think that's really what it's stemming from. So now we've got to allow quote unquote riffraff, because some people look down on people as a result of what they earn, and that's terrible, right? But it's also a reality of human nature. So now we've got to let this riffraff in because you made poor decisions, and now my kids have got to go to school with some kid that's parents are making $60,000-$70,000 a year. And as terrible as that sounds, they don't want it. It looks good on paper, it looks good for everybody else, but they don't want it in their backyard.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple different thoughts on it. One, I think if the town really feels that way, they should not be looking for government funding. If you look, Incline Village on Lake Tahoe is basically a privately run city. It's a little bit smaller than this. It's about 3,300 people, but the people who live there fund everything themselves. They take almost no government money because they want to keep it exclusive. My thoughts on that, there's a reason that we work hard to build a business, because we are striving towards something, right? If everything is just flat even, why would anyone work as hard as we do, right? Why would anyone take the risk building a business? Why would anyone do those things? We need something to aspire to. I don't think it's class warfare as much as it is, hey, I want to have really nice things around me. I think that's a good place. It's an interesting article, Chris. I appreciate your thoughts. So those are the things that made the news this week. There's a lot going on out there. There is a lot of uncertainty. We're going into the election. That's going to bring us back to our deal. We're going to go through our deal one more time, and then I've got some education for you. We're going to share some teaching points. But let's go through the deal one more time. If you're looking for something that is truly a great way to finish out the year, you're going to get tax benefits. Plus, we're looking at a 24-month turnaround here, which means within 24 months, our goal is to get you 90% of your investment back while keeping you in the deal. And we plan on holding on to this deal for a long, long time. Chris, I'm going to pull up the OM. I'll let you talk through it again. If you guys have any questions over the deal, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll be happy to go through them. And
So
here
again,
we go.
Oklahoma City or Del City, Oklahoma, right? Which is just outside of Oklahoma City. Great property that has been, it's been owned by the same owner for a long time. Hasn't put any effort or energy into this, just collecting the rents as they are. Not really investing or working with the property. So they're at a point where they're just ready to let it go. And that gives us the opportunity to buy low, invest a few dollars to do some sprucing up, get this property to where it needs to be, and then drive the rents to where they need to be. It's currently leased at $1.80 square foot. We're going to push it to $1.35, which is the market. Will actually end up right around $1.31, $1.32, so that again we're below market, so that people want to come and be with us. Drive the NOI of that property up over the next 2 years, get it up so high that we can do a refi out of this and return 90% of all of our investors' money to them, but keep them in the deal forever. So you maintain your equity position, keep getting those returns, and bada bing, bada boom, you have your money back, and you go invest in the next deal while you have this just continuing to generate revenue for you. Infinity. It's the way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So just so you guys see the tiers, the 3 tiers of investment are down here. 100,000 to 500,000 will get you a 6% preferred return with a 70-30 split. A 500 to $1 million investment will get you 8% preferred and a 25-75 split, and $1 million plus will get you 10% preferred and an 80-20 split. If you and your friends want to go in together, we'll allow you to group together so that you guys can get a higher preferred return. Our goal here at Home Invest is to give you guys the absolute best deals that we can to help you build generational wealth. Any questions, you can put them in the chat. Sue is putting a link in the chat as well. If you guys want to book a call with myself or with Sue, I know Doug is on here as well. We got a few different members of the team. You can reach out to any one of us through that link. If you're already working with an investor, please pick the investor that you're with already. But we're here to help you guys. We can answer any questions that you have. Just click the link that is in the chat. That will get you on a call with us. Chris, do you know, have we talked about what the tax benefits are going to be for this property as well?
Yes, we haven't talked about it, but we have an initial cost segregation. So we're telling everybody 35%, but the reality is that it's probably going to be a little bit more because we like to under promise and over deliver. So 35 to the 40% mark. So that means if you put $100,000 in, you expect, $37,000 in depreciation losses on your K1, right off of your tax return this year. So that's what we're scoping it to be. If Trump gets the Tax and Job Act retroactive, those numbers will probably go up to more around the $50,000 to $60,000 point. But right now, that's what we're telling everybody, that 35% is a good number for budgeting purposes.
Awesome. And our target IRR for this one is 18 to 21%. This is a screaming deal. It's going to do very, very well. If you guys are interested, our last deal filled up in 8 days, very similar to this, as it was an infinite return proposition, and people love them. So if you're interested, definitely click that link. You can click the link in the chat. That will get you on with myself, Sue, or Doug. All right. So the last piece that I have for you today, we're going to talk through how you measure a place that you are investing. And I'm actually going to use Del City as an example here. So there are 4 main things that we look for when we are looking at, should you buy a place there? This is whether you're looking for a single family or whether you're looking to jump into a multifamily. These are questions that you can use. You can ask the syndicator that's putting the deal together, or if you're doing your own investments, you want to look at it. So the first one is it in a landlord-friendly state? Is the property in a landlord-friendly state? Why are you looking for that? Well, if you have a rental in California, squatters' rights, it can take you over 2 years to get somebody out. If you want to move a tenant out of your property and put them into a different property, in California, now you actually have to pay them. you have to pay your tenant. This eats into the cash flow, it eats into the profitability, and in multifamily, it would actually eat into your net operating income. You want to look for investments that are in landlord-friendly states. As a general rule of thumb, that is going to be your red states more than your blue states. You can also Google this. There are several great articles out there. I believe we put one out from Home Invest as well, going through landlord-friendly states. That's the first question that you want to ask. The second one that you want to ask is job growth. What kind of job growth is happening in the state? You don't want to see crazy rapid job growth. You don't want to see it, I would say, over 3 or 4%, because what goes up really fast means that it comes down really fast. You also don't want to see negative job growth, because that means the city is dying. You want to see somewhere between 1 to 2.5% job growth. We saw rapid job growth here in Austin, and what happened? It went up like crazy for about 2 years, and then it fell off a cliff, and is still in free fall. So I want to talk about this with the investment opportunity that we have for you. So the one that Chris just put up, the one that we're talking about, Morgan Terrace in Del City, which is outside of Oklahoma City. So first off, is it landlord friendly? Yes, it is. Number two, is it red or blue? It is in a red state, long-time red state. Job growth, 1.6 to 1.9% year over year for the last 5 years. Slow and steady. It's been that way actually longer than 5 years. I just went back 5 years doing the research. But it's been that way for a long time. As a bonus, you have the Air Force Base right there. What do we know about Air Force Base housing? They're going to be there part of the time. They're looking for something. They're looking for something that they can live in that's not crazy expensive. Sorry, they're going to rent, not buy. They're looking for something that's not crazy expensive. This fits all of that very, very well. The last thing that we like to look for is rent to income. So what does it cost to rent versus income? Some of you guys might know this. What does somebody, financial planner, what do people who help build budgets? Susie Orman falls in there. What do they say you should spend on rent in a month or in a year? What percentage of your income? Let's see if anybody can get this in the chat. Sue says 35%. Chris, sorry, I don't know how you got muted, Chris. There you go. You should be able to unmute.
There we go.
30 to 36% Zoom user. Good. Anya says 30%. You guys are correct. 30% is what they recommend. So if you see that, you know that people can afford to pay the rent. If something happens, if they get sick or if they lose their job, they can usually have a couple months of buffer without a problem when it's down around the 30% mark. Now, if you look at San Francisco, we're going to use some extremes here. If you look at San Francisco, California, San Francisco, the average income, according to Google, is around $70,000. The average rent for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom is now $5,800 a month. Doug's shaking his head. That's a lot, right? That's a lot for a single person to cover. This is why you see everybody living together in California, because that's the only way that they can do it. Their rent to income is like 70, 80%. That doesn't leave a lot left over for groceries, car payment, health insurance, all of those things. Now, what do we see in Oklahoma at our property at Morgan Terrace? Well, the average income is $49,000 a year, and the average rent is $1,220. That comes out to 29.2%. Do you feel like people there would be able to pay their rent pretty much no matter what? That they'd have a lot easier time? Rent to income is one of the things that you want to look for. So Ralph, I know you're down in Florida. Florida has like one of the widest spans of rent to income. If you look in some parts of Miami, you can see great rent to income ratios. If you look in the wrong parts, you can see crazy high rent to income. Just depends where you're looking at. This is why you need to know where you are looking at investing. So I hope that was informative to you guys. Chris, I'm going to bring you up one more time. If you guys have any questions, I was going through the chat. I didn't see anything in there, but if you have any questions over our deal, you can drop them in there. We are going to wrap this up. I appreciate you guys coming on the Opportunity Zone. It is our pleasure to serve you, help you guys make great decisions, cover the news with you. Chris, anything to say in closing?
God bless and hang in there, but take the opportunity to invest now before the election. Trust me on that one.
Yeah, I would say things are probably going to go nuts after the election for a while. This is a great deal. You can jump on a call with any of us using the link that Sue has put in the chat. It's in there a couple times. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. We'll leave the room open for just a couple of minutes. If you'd like to book a call with us, click that link, and myself, Sue, or Doug will see you on a call. We'll see you back here next week where we go through all the news for the week here on the Opportunity Zone. Wishing you guys a great week. Be great stewards of what God has given you, and we'll see you soon.
God bless. Peace.